Today we're going to talk to you about the Fallkniven TK5. Stands for Tri-Corona 5. It's part of their Triple Crown range. This is quite a high-end knife. It's a very expensive knife, and when I first received this knife I had mixed feelings about it. A couple of bits and pieces of the workmanship I thought were a little bit shoddy for the price that this knife retails at. There was glue on the sheath, and there was a tiny gap between the scales at the bottom there which I could get my fingernail in. Now, I expect a bit better from a knife of that sort of price, to be honest. However, although I start on a bit of a down note, the steel of the blade of this knife is absolutely exceptional. I can't say enough good things about it, but that's by the by. Let's start by running you through the main features of this knife. It comes with a flip over leather sheath, which is fairly standard. Anyone who owns the Fallkniven F1 will know the type of sheath. It's a good solid piece of gear. Okay, I mentioned earlier there was a little bit of a problem with the finishing, a little bit of glue seeping through, but it's nothing major. Triple layered, stitched, riveted, secure popper, good solid belt loop. You're not going to lose your knife with this sheath. Now, the knife itself comes in with a 3.15 inch blade. The overall length is 6.9 inches, and the knife weighs in at 5.6 ounces. Now, the handle scales are Cocobolo, but this model of knife comes with various different handles, including the plastic and a couple of other options. It's a full tang construction, 4.5mm blade, so it's quite a hefty blade for a knife this size. The grind is a convex grind, so it very quickly thins down, so that the blade thickness isn't a problem in the use of the blade, and you've got a thin fake edge at the top here, so the blade thins down nicely towards the point. The thing that's really exceptional about this blade is it's made from Fallkniven's 3G powdered steel. Now, it's a laminate blade, so there's two corrosive resistant, slightly softer but tougher layers either side of the rock hard cutting centre. Now, the blade, which is the 3G steel, comes in at a Rockwell rating of 62, which is ludicrously hard. Normally that would make for a very brittle blade, but in this case, because of the lamination, you actually got quite a tough blade. The thing that is absolutely amazing about this blade is the edge retention. I've had to do very little to this edge in all the weeks that I've been using it, and it's barely noticeably blunter. I mean, I've stropped it regularly, which I do with all my knives anyway, and it's still as razor sharp as it came out the box. This is an exceptionally hard blade. The downside to that is if you do let it get blunt, you're going to have an absolute hell of a time actually getting it sharp again. You're going to be spending a lot of time on diamond stones or whetstones or whatever your sharpening system to get an edge back on it. So this blade you need to keep sharp. So that's the TK5. Let's see what we can do with it. I've been using this knife for a few weeks now, quite extensively, and in conclusion, I really enjoyed using it. To start with, I was a bit reticent. It's got quite a small handle. I've got quite a broad hand. I thought there might be problems, but actually in using it, it turned out there weren't. It's actually quite a comfortable knife to use. My only problem with this knife was that the finish wasn't what I would consider up to standard. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great knife. It's got a lovely finish to it, but there's those tiny little bits that I think should have put a little bit more attention into the detail. However, having said that, the steel of this blade, the Fallkniven 3G steel, is amazing. I mean, it does still cut today like it cut when it first came out the box. It holds an edge like nothing I've ever used before. It's quite an incredible piece of gear, and I would say that the knife is worthwhile based purely on that. You still get the same problems with things like feather sticking that you do with any sort of convex grind, insofar as because it's a curved edge, if you lift the knife slightly off the surface you lose your feathers, things like that, but you get used to that. At the same time, it's got a good deal of steel behind it, so while you've still got a fine cutting edge, you've still got a nice chunky blade, so you're not going to have to worry about your knife breaking or anything like that. It's a fantastic skinning knife. The game that I prepared with it, it sailed through it, all of it. No problems at all. So on the whole, fantastic little knife. Really nice little size for an all-round camp knife. Struggles with things like battening, but then that's what you'd expect from a small blade, only simply because you haven't got the blade length to stick through the wood. So for me, it ticks all the boxes. It's a great little knife, and one that I can highly recommend to everybody.